and welcome to another painting video. In this video I'll be painting the best model of the new Darkoath army set, the Wilderfiend. Or Wilderfiend? Van Wilderfiend? I don't know. But wow, this model looks absolutely menacing. I'm trying out some Warpaints Fanatics paints for this one, and I went all out trying to paint a grisly looking skin for the beast. Let's begin, shall we? I start with a black primer as I usually do. I then spray on Nightlord's Blue as a zenithal on the model. Deepest recesses stay black to create some natural shadow. Next, I spray Gargoyle Grey from the Army Painter again as a zenithal over the model. This time not as much coverage, so the previous step is still visible. This paint is a little comparable to Darkoath Flesh, but not quite. Next, I spray Brainmatter Beige, which is still the coolest name for a paint ever, on spots where the skin needs to be the brightest. I start the skin with a shade of Targor Nightshade. I go over the entire skin. This will darken the skin and set the base for the rest. Several parts of the model will get a shade of Deepkin Flesh. I do the hands, elbows and knees amongst other things. I will also paint these slightly different to create some variation. I start layering with a mix of Brainmatter Beige and Celestra Grey. I sketch on a texture on the muscles and basically try to follow the sculpt as much as I can. I repeat the previous step with Brainmatter Beige. Again, I sketch or feather on a texture. In this step I focus on the tops of all the raised areas, so the previous step is still visible. The parts I shaded with Deepkin Flesh I now layer with a mix of Agate skin and Mold Berry. These are paints of the Army Painter, by the way. I sketch on the layers the same way as I did with the beige skin. Next, I repeat the previous step with a mix of Ruby Skin and Moldy Wine. I really enjoy these paint names. I highlight with Opal Skin. Deep recesses and scar tissue I shade with Carroburg Crimson to make it look a little bit more bruised. I'm very happy how this skin worked out. It adds a lot to use some variation on big models such as these. During the painting process I actually kept coming back to keep sketching more and more on the skin, so the end result looks a little bit more done than what you see here. By accident I didn't spray the light colors on the tip of the tail, so let's use this to our advantage by discoloring the tail, like it had frostbite or something. With a mix of Dark Reaper and Deepkin Flesh, I add a texture of lines. And I repeat the previous step with a mix of Fenrisian Grey and Deepkin Flesh. The grey and flesh tone gives this nice off-grey color which really adds a lot to the tail. I add a highlight of Fenrisian Grey mixed with Pearl Skin. At the moment the tail doesn't really pop because the base is the same color. This will be fixed once the base looks like a snowy mountain. Leather is base coated with rhinox hide. This is a repeat recipe of the leather I use with all my Darkoath. I layer on some Doombull Brown. When using small detail colors throughout your army, it really binds them together. I layer again with Scrag Brown and highlight with Zandri Dust to get some nice worn brown leather. I assume the Wilderfiend found some poor saps and fashioned them into a robe. I base coat this with Wraithbone. Then I apply Skeleton Horde. This works really well with the off-white of the Wraithbone. Next, I apply Carroburg Crimson to create an easy and gross looking dead skin robe. I feather on a layer of Deepkin Flesh to highlight the robe. And I repeat this with Flayed One Flesh. Finally, I highlight with Deepkin Flesh to give the skin a more deadish look. This is coming together nicely. I'll add some blood to the robe in the end as well. All metal is painted with Iron Warriors, again using the same recipe as the rest of my Darkoath. Brass decorations are painted with Balthasar Gold. Again, these little details keep the model in line with the rest of the Darkoath, as they also have these decorations. I shade everything with Agrax Earthshade and highlight with Runefang Steel. I add some dashes on the blade to create some wear and tear on the metal. Bone is base coated with Rhinox hide. I will build up the bone color to make the bone feel a little bit more richer. I layer on Mournfang Brown. No worries if the Rhinox hide is still showing, this will add depth to the bone. I introduce a ochre yellow color on the bone with Hobgrot hide. I highlight with Ushabti bone, and again with Screaming Skull to create some detailed looking bone. Sketching on also creates some fun textures. The myriad of horns on the model are painted with a mix of Leviathan Blue, Gryph-Charger Grey, and Lamy Medium, making use of the natural gradient that is on there because of the airbrush. I highlight the horns with Thunderhawk Blue. This is the base for some cool midnight blue horns. I highlight again with Fenrisian Grey. And finally with Blue Horror. With the previous two steps, I have very little on my brush and quickly dash it against the horns. This will create some stippling instead of a smooth line. I want the horns to look a little bit rough. I decided against painting all the horns in a bone color. With the light skin and the light base, this won't really add the contrast you want on a model like this. Slowly, this model is coming together very nicely and ghastly. Let's add some extra loving care to the face. I dot the eyes with white paint and paint them with Imperial Fist to give them some bright yellow eyes. Red is also an option, but I think yellow fits this model paint scheme a little bit more. The big tongue is painted with Cultist Purple and shaded with Volupus Pink. I highlight the tongue with Emperor's Children and again with Fulgrim Pink, being careful not to hit the surrounding teeth. This adds a fun little spot color to the model. All of the chopped off heads are base coated using Darkoath Flesh and shaded with Targor Rage Shade. This is a perfect shade if you want anything gross or deadish looking. I layer on a mix of Darkoath Flesh and Palace Witch Flesh to highlight the heads a bit. Some of the heads get black hair. These are base coated using Corvus Black. Highlighted with Mechanicus Standard Grey and highlight again using Dawnstone. The remaining heads get blonde hair. I base coat this hair with Xandri Dust. highlight with Ushabti Bone, shade with Seraphim Sepia, and I bring back Ushabti Bone to highlight. The Van Wilderfiend has lots of heads on his person, so it's good to vary up the hair, otherwise it won't really stand out. Almost there. Now let's look at some of the remaining details. The Oath Stones are painted with Celestra Grey, shaded with Drakenhof Nightshade, and highlighted with Ulthuan Grey. This is also the same way I paint all the Oath Stones on my Darkoath. Rope is painted with Snakebite Leather. Nice and easy, no need to look at that further. And then I add some blood effects with Dry Blood. To the trophies and the flesh robe mostly, but I also add a little bit to his left claw so it looks like he just attacked something or just had a fresh kill. Dry Blood dries up really dark, so I add True Blood, both from the Army Painter, to make the blood look a little bit more fresh in some places. These paints work really well together. And here we have a finished Van Wilderfiend. I have a short on my channel where I show how I paint my snowy bases. I gotta say, my Darkoath look really cool on their snowy bases. Now to finish my final Marauder unit, so I have completed the army set. What will be featured in my next video is not yet certain. I do have some big plans for Age of Sigmar with 2 armies, so stay tuned. In the meantime, be sure to check out my Instagram, where I'll post pictures of current projects and behind the scenes stuff. But for now, thanks for watching.